These two arrogant gangsters came at the prosecutor's command to deal with the snitch who knew too many secrets.
이 순서가 빨리 왔다잉?
After a few stabs, the man's life was completely ruined. Then, the gangsters poured gasoline on the man's legs and set it on fire. Clearly, they wanted to make the man wish he were dead, but they didn't expect the man to make a strong comeback in just a year, whether it was the gangsters who attacked him, the prosecutor who orchestrated it, or the high-ranking presidential candidate. He would seek justice from each of them. The leading man, John, was just an ordinary chauffeur, earning a modest living every day. One night, a customer unexpectedly offered a large tip. John thought he had struck gold and quickly accepted the money. The customer asked John to wait for half an hour, and handed him a bottle of drink before leaving. Without thinking, John drank it. But not long after the customer left, John started to feel unwell. In the next moment, a group of police suddenly pulled him out of the car, saying they were arresting John for drug possession. So John was inexplicably sent to prison. As a newcomer, John was well taken care of by the older prisoners. As soon as he walked in, nowadays, 23,000 criminals were sent to prison in South Korea each year for drug-related offenses. They were labeled with a blue tag, and now John was one of them. Just when John thought his life was over, an unexpected turn of events happened. That person was Prosecutor George. Before meeting John, he was just a small prosecutor without any connections. He could only handle undesirable cases. After all, there were 500 prosecutors in South Korea, of which only 1% were senior prosecutors, while the remaining 99% must work their way up for 10 years. But George had very ambitious goals. He wanted to become that rare 1%. George got the idea from his experience catching cockroaches. Why not use one of them as a guide to trap the whole group? So he began searching for a suitable roach right away. Soon, John's information came to George's attention. Then, George called John in for a closer look. From his eyes, it was clear that John was definitely not a drug addict, wrongfully accused. John thought George was going to help clear his name, so he was very willing to cooperate. George asked John to quickly memorize the information on the paper. After taking the paper away, John surprisingly recited it word for word. It was clear that John's memory was extraordinary. George was secretly delighted. This was exactly the roach he needed. The first challenge he gave John was to uncover the drug dealer's network inside the prison.
간만 다 채우면은 내가 네 형량.
Hearing this, John became energized right away. Displaying his tenacity, he challenged the older prisoners time and again. Although he often ended up with bruises, he tirelessly investigated. He truly managed to figure out the drug routes in prison. This way, the network was filled in piece by piece. In the end, the prosecution took down the whole network in one go. By the time the older prisoners realized what had happened, John had swaggered out of the prison. But the one who benefited the most wasn't John, but Prosecutor George. He received a promotion and got his own office. From then on, George and John's relationship grew closer. While having dinner together, George played the emotional card and shared his financial struggles with John. This moved the naive John deeply, and he regarded George as a true confidant. Now, George was being transferred to a position in Western Seoul, but after the prison incident, George proposed that John become a snitch, continuing to provide leads. The snitch here refers to a drug enforcement informant. They belong neither to the police nor to the criminal underworld. Just like in politics, they are non-governing and non-systematic, existing in a marginal position. Hearing George refer to him as a brother made John feel incredibly comfortable. Being able to befriend a prosecutor surely meant a bright future for him, so John agreed to George's proposal without hesitation. But George warned John that being a snitch meant just that, but he must not touch drugs, or it would mean the end of his life. John nodded right away, taking it to heart. 3 years later, John had built up a successful career in this line of work. He could easily extract information from drug dealers, then he would design operations to expose the higher-ups, allowing the prosecution and police to catch them red-handed. When necessary, John would also lend a hand. Of course, after each operation, John would receive a handsome reward. You could tell from the car John drove that he had made quite a bit of money from this. After 3 years, John's entire demeanor had changed dramatically. Meanwhile, drug unit Captain Charlie cornered the drug-addicted starlet, Mary, but she was already terrified. No matter how Charlie tried to persuade her, she refused to come out of the car. In desperation, they had to drag both her and the car back to the station. Her urine test came back positive, just as expected. Mary cried, saying she had made a mistake and used drugs to lose weight for a role. but Charlie didn't want to hear any more excuses. He just wanted to know who Mary bought the drugs from. After going through Mary's phone gallery, Charlie noticed a familiar man. His name was James, the son of the upcoming presidential candidate and a young prosecutor. Then Charlie began to scare Mary, saying that if he leaked the information to the media, her acting career would be completely ruined. Mary was immediately frightened to tears upon hearing this. At this point, Charlie softened his tone and earnestly urged her to cooperate with the investigation, otherwise, the drug dealers would harm more people. Charlie assured her that as long as Mary told the truth, the past would be forgiven. As a result, Mary quickly opened up. Meanwhile, John swaggered into the prosecutor's office to find George. Seeing George's impressive office, he couldn't help but say that people really need to climb to higher positions, but George told John that he was always worried that the higher he stood, the harder he would fall. So to avoid being pushed down, he had to hold on to everything he could grasp.
강수야, 난 가끔 밖에 보면.
After George finished speaking, John took out a gift right away, which was a beautifully crafted lighter. He had one just like it. As soon as George accepted the gift, John pulled out a bag of blue powder, saying it was a powerful new product. Previously, a rich kid had been caught with 500 grams of this stuff in his pocket. Now John had relevant leads. If he could capture the drug dealer, it would not only make sure George's smooth entry into the Central District Prosecutor's Special Division, but John could also make a significant profit from it. Meanwhile, drug dealer Jack was unaware that he was being targeted by both the police and the prosecution. As Jack drove back, the police quietly followed behind. Before Charlie could take action, John's call reached Jack's phone. He informed Jack that police cars were following closely behind, and that he needed to follow his instructions to escape. Although Jack was very doubtful, the situation was urgent, so he had to hurry to a safe place as John instructed. John drove his car to block Charlie's path, buying time for Jack. Then, Jack abandoned his car and headed straight for the subway station, stopping at the designated spot. He even picked up a shard of glass to confront the pursuing police, but when the subway arrived, Prosecutor George got off and intercepted Charlie. Charlie finally realized that the brat who had just blocked him was actually working for Prosecutor George. Then John got into the car with Jack. Jack realized that he had been too careless. Next, George got into the car and interrogated Jack with John, hoping to get him to reveal the leads. Meanwhile, unwilling to give up, Charlie called Mary again. At this time, Mary was called out to hang out with those people, and saw the official's son, James. Charlie had previously told her to call in right away if she saw this guy. After hesitating for a moment, Mary answered the phone and gave Charlie the address. Charlie quickly gathered his team and rushed to the nightclub. Just as Mary was about to leave, another rich kid stopped her. He threatened Mary that if she dared to leave, she would face the consequences alone. Mary had no choice but to stay, stealing herself. Before Charlie could arrive, George, who had gotten leads from Jack, had already surrounded the nightclub with his team. As a result, Jack regained his freedom. After John took out his recording glasses, he walked into the nightclub with George. The scene inside the hidden booth was simply unbearable. John even found the abused Mary in the restroom. Then everyone in the room was taken away by the prosecution. By the time Charlie and his team arrived, everything had already been settled, which infuriated him. In the South Korean system, the police and prosecution already had a contentious relationship, let alone that these people often stole his cases. Even the snitch Mary had been taken by the prosecution. Now Charlie was completely at a loss.
그렇다고 너무 열심히들 살지 마세요. 뭣도 아니고.
John didn't realize that disaster was about to strike, because one of the arrested individuals was the son of the next presidential candidate. George was suddenly under pressure from all sides. The opposing lawyer advised George that it was unnecessary to clash with powerful figures. And wasn't this a perfect opportunity for George to climb the ranks? Upon hearing this, George fell into deep thought. Finally, in order to advance, George chose to compromise, but to protect himself, he had to kill anyone who knew his secrets. Naturally, John was on the list, so George had Jack handle it. That night, unsuspecting John fell into their trap, but Jack didn't kill him. Instead, he ran John over, crushing his leg. Once John was incapacitated, they injected him with high doses of drugs. While it wouldn't kill him, it would make John wish he were dead. But that wasn't the end. To further torment John, they poured gasoline on his legs and ignited it. Meanwhile, a large number of prosecutors flooded the police station, issuing an arrest warrant for Charlie.